Good day, everyone. Welcome to the CounterFactual. Sunny and I are on a mission to uncover insights and counterfactuals in the product arena. Each week, we bring on a guest to discuss product, talk about insights, and explore the boundaries of what was possible or not. For our first guest, we bring on Kumar, who's a good friend of ours, met through common Reforge and Exponent networks. Kumar's had a really interesting experience. He spent a few years at Amazon on the Amazon Halo product, which is one of the cooler products to come out of Amazon in the medical sort of arena. Without much further ado, let's get right into it.
I go by Kumar. My single biggest passion is I love applying AI to common problems, be it a business problem or a personal problem too, right? And so initially I a quick TLDR on my journey. Basically, I started out as an electronics engineer and then started working on big data and then taught companies and helped companies do analytics of the big data. And then I saw it was a natural progression to get into machine learning. So somewhere in early 2010s, I got into machine learning. And since then, I did quite a bit of that and then moved into Amazon. At Amazon, I was mainly in Halo, did both program and product management there. And outside of Amazon, generally product and program, they go hand in hand, especially when you're building AI. Because it's just the nature of the beast. And right now, what I do is I basically work at a real-world data company. It's a clinical AI company. What we basically do is we read off electronic medical records and then try to get the data that really matters from a drug development standpoint. So that's in brief. And yeah, go for it.
No, I guess just to pull on the thread that Karan started here. So you moved into, but if we're just gonna take a step back, think about the last couple of years, right? When you first joined Amazon, curious to learn a little bit more just about what took you to Amazon and whether you started working on Halo right off the bat or where you were working on other types of projects and eventually moved into Halo.
Yeah. So it was back in 2021. Okay, we were just coming off COVID, and I was basically working on building computer vision models for wildfire mitigation. So we had a lot of wildfires in Southern California. So I was working for a utility company back then, and then someone from Alexa AI reached out and said, "Hey, do you want to work for us?" I said, "All right." I know Alexa and I know AI, so I thought maybe. I assumed something, and then I got in. And after I got in, I realized, oh my God, this it's a lot different than what I thought. Extremely siloed environment. I didn't quite like it. So then I started looking out and seeing, okay, is there anything else at Amazon, or is it just like this? The entire company is. But then I stumbled across this. They call it day one idea or day one product, and day one is. As you know, how Amazon works there. So these people were marketing about hey, there is this cool product called Halo, we just started, and then we'd love to get people, really good people who can actually make the difference. And I always wanted to be in the healthcare. And before even I started working in the wildfire stuff, I was in healthcare. So I thought, okay, let me go back and try. And that's how I got into Halo. And it was an amazing experience because we were about 200 people or so, the entire Halo. It was a small team compared to in a big company like Amazon. It was extremely focused on only one task. How do we improve the general health and wellness, right? For a common person, any random American, let's say. And it was a very mission-driven kind of org. So that's how I landed there, and I had one hell of a ride. It was so much fun.
Super cool. One quick question as well here, just to for any listeners here to ground them and the type of work that you did. Could you just give a quick overview of Halo and the product itself, and the problem it was trying to solve?
Yeah, absolutely. So Halo's mission was mainly, as I said, right, like to improve the health and well-being or wellness of an average American. Again, I'm paraphrasing the exact mission, but the core of it was, how do we really bring in preventative care and more of a, I would say, think about all the, so fitness tracker is one product, but the core of Halo was that how can we make everyone more healthier, right? If we go with that as a larger mission, then Halo started out in 2021, actually 2020, mid 2020. So it was just after the COVID struck. And I think the market, if you look back and see, Google was acquiring Fitbit. And then everyone wanted to get into the healthcare space. And everyone was like, okay, this is going to be a massive disruptor. And there were a ton of investments going on in this. And if you position Amazon, they had the devices org, which is basically the same org that developed Kindle, that developed Echo, that developed Alexa, all of that, right? They call it Lab 126 here in Sunnyvale. So they were riding on a string of successes. Okay, they wanted to really break into healthcare, which is not an easy market at all, like if you think about it. So that was kind of the lay of the land at the time. And Halo started out with how can I bring a fitness tracker? Like a fitness tracker was the first entry. How can I bring a fitness tracker of a high quality? There was only one fitness tracker everyone knew at that time, which was Fitbit. Right? Yeah. And then there were many others, but then there were like a long tail of those, right? But this one, they wanted to get from a reputable brand like Amazon, back it with that, and then say, hey, let's make a difference in people's market, like in people's life. So we started out with a tracker. That tracker, the differentiator of the tracker was that it didn't have a screen. Right. Okay, yeah. This was by design, and we called it as Halo Band. The beauty about the tracker is the tracker should be part of your body. You should not even know that there is something attached to your body. Like, if you think about that, that was the end goal. Of course, you'll know when you wear something, but you wouldn't actually look at it, right? It was almost like a bangle that you wear kind of thing. And that we also shipped 2 or 3 different very unique features that no one had. One was like tone analysis. Like I can actually talk, and my app will actually tell me if I'm nervous, if I'm stressed, if I'm happy, joyful. Like it can tell me like what kind of mood I am in. And I did not know for a long time. One of my customers, like that I used to work like 10 years ago, she said it was an amazing feature for her daughter because she struggled with anxiety. I know those kind of stories. When I heard, I was like, wow, I never knew that, right? So, and then there was another one, like, you could actually take like your phone and you could essentially take your body measurements and it can tell you how much fat you have, right? Those kind of things. So there were some pretty cool features that we started out with. Yeah, again, I can go on, but yeah, that's how it was.
I'll just say this and I'll hand it over to Karan, but I love the first feature that you talked about. The reason I'm smiling and laughing is because I've had a coworker in my past who had a boss who was a little tough, and through their conversations, started to realize that the tone of the boss was getting worse and worse. And so he suggested, hey, I think you should get the Amazon Halo.
Oh my gosh.
Bullshit. Yeah. So boss actually did get it. And, was there's some sort of like a vibrating feature on the wrist every time it's tone. For the sort of an equilibrium in the relationship. But no, I mean, I use cases like that I always thought were pretty funny and pretty interesting for the Halo, but super interesting background, man. Karan, I'll hand it over to you, dude.
Yeah, for sure. So I think there's an interesting question that, I mean, maybe the response is interesting, but like, was the decision to actually not have a digital output, was it an intentional decision, or was there a trade-off decision around, hey, let's just punt this to a later point? Because you need to potentially build like a, have some sort of a time display and the works that go with it. I'm just curious, like,
Yeah.
how intentional was that decision?
So the initial market research kind of said that there are these two types of people, right? Who wants to check, on their whatever wristbands that they wear. The other group of people is, hey, I don't even want to know something like that exists. I just want to continue with my own, like life regularly, and you tell me what's going on, right? Post facto. So the initial launch was catered to the later segment because that was not served at all, if you think about it. So if you look at now, actually, the hypothesis actually makes sense because right now, sorry, give me a moment. Right now, Whoop actually has a band that doesn't have any display, which is a very good fitness tracker out there. So those were the assumptions. But then we quickly realized that, we need to have a display because there are this other group of people that needs to be served. So then we launched something called Halo View, which has a display. And after the Halo View, then we moved away from the fitness trackers, got into a bedside trackers, like for people who don't want to wear anything on their body, right?
Oh, okay.
And who just wanted to have a device next to them, let's say. I mean, they can probably, that's the max, they can bring it to close, like they're closest to them. And then, exactly, no touch.
Medical, yeah.
Exactly. There are so many people that don't want anything to touch their body, right? Like, I'm getting sore on my wrist right now wearing my Samsung watch, but hey, that is what it is right now. So we also developed something called Halo Rise. That's what we call it as. And then the product was launched, and so on and so forth. Like then we went into content management. Like we got into sleep. How can we have better bedtime stories, right? And better mindfulness stories. And then so I actually oversaw an entire product launch, wherein we brought in celebrities to actually, do the stories. And then those stories, we paid almost $3 million for like 4 celebrities to get them read some stories. Yeah, so it was kind of established, and it was establishing, and it was growing, and there was so many ideas that people had. It was an amazing time, I think, to be.
Interesting. So just to get us back to track, maybe like when you joined, where was Halo in its evolution, and maybe like what are the core 1 or 2 key use cases that the product was designed around?
Yeah, sure. So when I joined, we already had that the displayless band out there in the market, the Halo band. The day I joined, we launched that Halo View, and I was supposed to take care of the launch and then make sure it is all smooth, right? And then there's no problem. So you know how the situation would have been, right? Like, and then so the core use cases, so I joined in like December 2021, I think, somewhere around that time. So that's when we launched it. I think December 6th was our launch date. So the core use cases for Halo View was basically an average persona. Like if we're not talking about an athlete or someone, like an average American persona. 2 main things. One is we want to know how much exercise are they actually getting, a workout. Like when I say exercise, I'm kind of grouping a ton of things here, like heart rate, steps, right? And these are the 2 right now. Then we started adding more, but at launch, these were the 2 mainly. Then, so that was one. The second was how much sleep were they getting, right? So movement and sleep. So those were the 2 key use cases, because we know that a lot of Americans struggle with sleep, and we wanted to give them something to measure.
Got it. And how would users be able to gather the information? So, I mean, not gather, but like how would they view the output of, like, let's say, the last night's sleep?
Yeah. So the way it works is when you wake up, the first thing, right? So it has to detect that, yes, you're not going to go back to sleep. Like when you wake up, okay, you woke up. And then it actually sends a signal to the app, the mobile app. So we have an Android and iOS app, and then that would basically, it kind of refreshes your entire sleep hypnogram.
Interesting. And maybe like how many devices on average, if you can't repeat the accurate number, was it still in beta? Was the view? Oh, it was launched. So you had a public launch.
It was launched.
Uh,
It was a GA, like literally. Yeah.
Interesting. And
Yeah.
how, like, over the next few months, like, how well did it do? Like, how did the market receive the Halo View?
Yeah. It was not that good. Okay. And
What do you
let me
mean by
tell you
like,
why. Yeah.
did it
Yeah.
not meet expectations of
No, it did not meet the expectation at all.
Okay.
Okay.
Here is the reason why. And this is what I think I learned the hard way. When we launched, so remember, this is all COVID time, right? We had to move fast. At the same time, like maintain quality. So what we ended up doing was we ended up buying a lot of the algorithms that went on the device from a third-party company. Okay, and these algorithms, although we had the team that could make the algorithms, but then the team had to train, learn a bunch of things because these are general-purpose scientists, and then you obviously need to. There's a ramp-up time and everything. And then guess what? Like a whole bunch of other companies, including Samsung, and I think to even certain extent Apple, they kind of use this company, right, to actually, get the algorithm. So it's not like every company has their own algorithm. They kind of, buy it, right? So one thing that probably happened in hindsight, it's easy, is that it was not well tested on the device, or it was poorly tested on the device. So there was a lot of false positives. Like, for example, I go here, I go like 6 steps, it would probably clock like 20 steps. Or I go on a run for a mile, it only clocked like 500 steps. Something like that. So these became trust busters, okay, immediately with the customers. And then they started complaining about this. And then we had a big PR problem. At the same time, we had a lot of investigation to know. Like, imagine, like I'm there on this first day of the launch. I joined, I think, 4th of December or something. And I had no idea what the architecture was, and I had to learn. We had to go over like troubleshooting, like what was going on here exactly. And it took almost 3 weeks for us to know that there was a problem with the algorithms that we bought. Okay, and then the integrity of that algorithm on the device. And by the time the damage was already done, because there were so many negative reviews on Amazon.
So in the day one culture, which is great, which is, if for viewers or listeners who aren't aware, it's like, hey, every day it's day one. You ship, you learn, and you sort of move on. But maybe that's more a software thing, which is easy to rectify, and maybe harder in the physical world where there are recalls and other implications associated. Why was this not caught early on in the development process itself? Or was it need to really move fast?
I mean, again, I can only speculate as to what would have happened. Because the product was already built, right? Like, and then if I look back as to why was these certain decisions made the way they were, number one was the team was not very well staffed. Remember, they were still marketing for people, and this was a peak time when everywhere there was a massive crunch for good people. Okay. So that was one. The second thing I can think of is this was a totally new area for devices, healthcare. Okay. Now, if Kindle, there is a problem with synchronization and Kindle, no problem. Okay. People can wait for a minute, maybe 2 minutes. But if there are problems when it comes to like health, like, if I'm at real time, I'm taking 3 steps and I want to see how many steps did I clock, that's not acceptable. So your entire framework of quality changes, right? Yeah. And then I think the framework itself did not exist at the time when it comes to healthcare. Like that's one of the things that I even learned right now. Like precision is so important in healthcare. It could be an easy trust buster. So yeah, I can speculate these two. Yeah.
Yeah, one thing just to add to what you guys are talking about here, it's we go through like this whole iteration of what is it, like in 0 to 1, like you launch, you learn, you take the feedback and you iterate. It's what you can find on, like you Google like 0 to 1 and you're going to get like a 5,000 images of like this, this little cycle, right? And you're given like
Yeah.
belief that over time you can just find a way to change people's perception. The first thing you launch, it should suck. You should be embarrassed by it. But I think we've moved into the stage now over the last couple of years where, especially for something that is a major launch to public users through a reputable company, there should be this fear of what the market reaction will be to this new product that's been launched by an organization of 200, 250 people, because if it's negative, it just is so difficult to change that perception because of the permanence of these reviews on aggregator sites like G2, Capterra, or it could be on Amazon's own site for the product, right? And that will then, diminish the growth loop, because when people want to buy the product, the first thing they're going to do is look at the reviews. So it's fascinating, right? Like how we moved away from like the whole release as soon as you possibly can. We're gonna suck. Right? But now it's like very different. Like there has to be some care and consideration put against it.
Yeah, man, totally plus one to that, because, for example, right, OpenAI can do something really stupid and they can get away with it, but Google cannot. Right. The same thing, right, applies. And it was so hard for us to go back and like imagine like the initial set of users like drive your product rating to like 2 stars, and then the later set of users, you got to go get so many other users so that it can even match, at least break out like beyond. And then there is other problem with within Amazon, like unless you get a 4-star rating, even for internal products on Amazon, you cannot even market your product.
Wow.
On Amazon.com. So the bar is really high. Like, if it's an internal Amazon product, you want to market it, you got to hit 4-star, otherwise you can't. We were almost till the day we were shut down, we were struggling at 3.95, 3.9. So we never could market our own product. That was so hilarious. But if you think about from hindsight, yeah.
We probably needed the podcast when you were at the 3.85 mark. You could probably got enough viewers to drive it up. That's interesting. So like talk us through, maybe like give us a sense for, so there's disarray, you're at 2 stars now at launch. Your problem solving has taken you 3 weeks to determine the algorithms were the issue. Once that was root caused and identified, how did you what was the plan to rectify and bring this to maybe back to 4 stars over the next 6 odd months is what I'm assuming?
Yeah, that's right. It didn't take long because, see, we had amazing scientists actually, ML AI side. So they were able to put packages that can kind of, I would say, like dumb it down, those errors, right? And also we had to do some UX fixes. So that way they are able to, like, we know where the incompatibilities were and we were able to fix them. And fortunately, most of them were software related. So like, for example, something like, there is race condition that can happen, right? Between, when you do something versus when you get reflected, right? Or when something is getting updated. So those kind of things we were able to avoid loops within race conditions. So that kind of helped us a lot. But what we realized was we needed to transition from third-party algorithms to first-party algorithms, our own algorithms, ASAP. And then it became a super high priority product that I was overseeing, like, okay, how do we build all the 1P algorithms? And then this took a lot longer than what we expected initially. Like, it was not easy to, like, it's almost like you're trying to mimic whatever the South African company was doing, right, for years, and trying to mimic overnight with maybe a bunch of like 6 scientists.
Interesting. And could you retroactively apply these changes to the device already shipped, like as a software package, update it from your app, from the companion app?
It was very complex, but it was possible because the hardware is ours, the firmware is ours, so we would define the way things would be. So the algorithms were like literally like, they were modified to fit in our band. So it was possible. That was a plan. So I'll kind of enumerate like all the algorithms that need to be changed. We needed to change the heart rate detection algorithm. Okay, we needed to change the step, counting algorithm. We needed to change the sleep algorithm. like sleep algorithm itself had like 3 sub algorithms. Then we had there's something called SPO2. You can actually measure that algorithm. So there were these 4 at a minimum as a high priority algorithms that we wanted to change. There were a lot more. Now imagine all of these were like table stakes, right?
Right.
And we had this huge backlog of features that we have to implement on top of it. Something like respiratory features, VO2 max, like, all of these, right? Like, and it was very difficult to balance between, okay, get the basics right and then also work on that, and then with just a handful of people. So that was a kind of moment.
And maybe like talk through in maybe a nutshell, summarize maybe like what was the sentiment among David Limp and some of the devices leadership at that point? How did they have conviction in the ability to turn things around?
Remember Halo as a org, right? Like we had a portfolio of products,
Sure.
including one product that did not get shut down, even when Halo got shut down, is a non-invasive glucose monitor.
Okay.
Okay, so I wear a CGM myself right now, but this is a non-invasive one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now that non-invasive glucose monitor, that was one. Like we had different, like it was a portfolio of product. So the general perception in the leadership was Halo is a must-have investment because Amazon is getting into like healthcare, no question about it. Like the one medical acquisition also, right? Yeah. And they even have Amazon Pharmacy. Like I get all my pharmacy through Amazon right now. So there is quite a bit of investment there. So this was more like, okay, can we get into the consumer side of it directly, right? So the perception there was, okay, we messed up, we got to fix it. Let's fix it, right? So there was nothing like, we are going to wind down or anything like that. No, there was nothing. They poured a ton of investment to just fix it, right? All these problems. And then after that, we launched 2 more products as well. Like, so you can see that there was this appetite to invest. I think the tipping point came when the monetary policy got tightened. It was mid 2022. Mm-hmm. Okay. And a lot of things have changed. That was the first trigger. The second trigger was when OpenAI launched the ChatGPT in November of 2022. Those 2 changed the perception amongst the leadership.
Of what the bar just suddenly went to the roof of what the user.
Yeah, because your break-even point has changed totally now, right? With your cost of capital. That's number one. The second problem was with Gen AI, they had to figure out, well, like, what do we do with this? I don't even know if I'm impacted or I can take advantage. Like, imagine the confusion going on in the leadership circles, right? Like, okay, oh my God, this is like is going on like crazy everywhere. The entire world is caught by surprise and it's spreading like fire. What do we do? Like, do we double down on our existing investments or do we hold back and then, rather think through? I think that mindset, that frozen kind of strategy, like, even like decision making was completely frozen. Everyone was paralyzed there at that time, I think, for literally like a year, I would say.
Oh, wow. Okay. So there was no clear like North Star defined to get out of this situation, but the execution continued without any.
The execution continued. The inertia was there, so we went on with the momentum. But then there was this hesitation from the leadership. We felt like because there were one new product that we were launching and that was shut down on the fitness trackers. The other challenge, there were 2 other consumer side challenges, that we ran into. One was if you look at as the Venn diagram, right, the fitness trackers and the smartwatches, they kind of merged over time. Okay, even now, if you look at Google is almost killing Fitbit. They are trying to put everything on Pixel. Oh. Okay. Yeah, but if you look at what they're doing with it, right? Because the customers, they wanted to, like, imagine a fitness tracker. We started investing in features like I can receive a phone call from my Halo view. Okay, like why would anyone need a phone call answering functionality in a fitness tracker? guess what? That's what customers were asking for. So we saw that the market was looking for one smartwatch, and it was already crowded because there are only 3 brands out there that can really take everything, like Apple, Google, Samsung, period. That's pretty much it. So it's already crowded market. There was no way we could get in there easily.
Interesting. So I think there's this common adage in the venture circles that hardware is hard, and maybe AI hardware is even harder.
Man, AI hardware is one part. Like this one, we got into one more issue. So by the time we solved the 3P, 1P problem, 6 months into it, we got into one more issue because the bands that were made, okay, they were made with neoprene, I think some material, basically a plastic-like material, that was interfering with people's sweat. And there was some hooks in that. They were getting like loosened up, and then they were getting torn, because of which the bands were falling over. Like, like when you're running, go for a jog and it just falls off. So then it became a real hardware problem, the hard part of hardware.
Interesting. So when did leadership then make the hard decision? And would you agree with that decision?
I agree. I mean, although it was painful, I think they made in September 2022 or October, somewhere around that. They said, okay, forget about hardware. We are not going to do hardware. We will just do software only. And then they pivoted everything towards something called Halo Trainer, like your personal trainer on your phone. It was led by the same guy called Noam Surek, who is now running a big org within Reality Labs at Meta.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, then we went into that. It was a heavily computer vision focused org, initiative. And then that's what got shut down, when Halo got shut down.
Fun.
What? So just before we move on, like when I talked to you guys about a year ago, when we're talking about Halo for the first time, Kumar, you were saying something that was really interesting to me. So in like the 0 to 1 space, you're always looking for momentum. You're always looking for traction. And if you're just like, if you're able to catch lightning in the bottle, which is very rare, you'll get to some semblance of product market fit, right? Many different definitions of that, but I do subscribe to that, when you see it kind of mantra, when you just feel the market forces, there's a bit of a pull, whatever you're pushing, there's a demand for it, right? You mentioned that there was demand for this. You felt the pull from your customers, and at a certain point, the reviews that you were getting, if you're looking at it on a cohort by cohort basis, very strong reviews. So I'm just curious, like, it sounds like you agree with the decision that it was shut down, but in terms of fulfilling a consumer need, it seems like there was that. So would love to hear your thoughts there, like in terms of whether you think that this could have survived on its own if it had just continued.
That's the counterfactual question, right? Like, would it have survived, right? I think some really smart maneuvers were to be, made to have it survive. Because let me explain why I say that. If you look at consumers, they have only 2 hands. Everyone has 2 hands, right? You can only wear a smartwatch or like a fitness band, period, right? Something like Oura Ring, if you look at, you got 10 fingers, so you can potentially wear quite a few there. So the challenge was us getting into that wrist, which is a premium space, in a human body, right? So if we were pivoting away from that and having like going after something like a finger, like a ring kind of thing, maybe it would have. Or the other option was if we focus mainly on the app, like a software only thing, but which could do a lot more. Because if you look at Gen AI, imagine all the $3 million that we spent on this celebrity singles and stuff like that. Yeah. You could do the same thing. Like, when we launched it, I felt like, man, I could have done this with Gen AI. Super easy, right? Like I don't need to spend 300. I just need $300. That's it. I don't need $3 million, right? I mean, you could do it right now. Like you could ask ChatGPT to go and, hey, play me a bedtime story in the voice of this person. And it can actually, I mean, although it cannot emulate the person's voice, but it can at least do a better job, right? And that was possible. But yeah, the answer to your question about counterfactual, there was no straight path, I think, if I see. Like, right now, especially that is even getting validated when I see Fitbit, the flagship product in this space, is almost getting killed.
Super.
People want, like, there were comments like totally, I mean, as a product manager, I was like, okay, man, I don't know what these users want, because sometimes they say, hey, they're okay to forgive Apple Watch, okay, even if it shows wrong heart rate, because it can, like they can respond to a message from their watch. Okay, so the bar for a smartwatch is much lower, whereas the bar for a fitness tracker was much higher.
Interesting. So consumers are more forgiving when you're solving many other problems versus solving a single problem. I guess the bar for quality is a lot higher when you're a single use case, hardware device versus a multi.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So the insights are you would basically find other body parts to optimize for, and you would launch with 1 PD models. You would not spend on advertising as much. Find a core group of users initially, get the 4 stars, then expand beyond. And you would solve multiple use cases and not just one. So consumers are more forgiving.
Or I can just go buy Whoop.
That
is all of it.
That's true. Wow, that's fun. Sunny, any last thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, just it's I guess like one other question that we were just throwing around, right, is if we were just, let's say the 3 of us were thinking of starting something in the space, right? And it doesn't necessarily need to be in the fitness tracker, like that core market. It could be an adjacent, but because you've lived the dream, right? You built a really cool product, which frankly I was a big fan of Amazon Halo, and loved what you guys did over there. But because of your work in the space as an operator, you've developed these earned insights that a lot of other people probably don't have. And you were able to get a sense of where the market's headed. If you were thinking of building something right now in the healthcare space, healthcare B2C, like what would be interesting to you as an area to potentially explore?
I am currently building one, which is basically, so I wear a CGM, continuous glucose monitor. Okay, so I get a lot of data from it. And with the Gen AI right now, I can literally take a picture of my food and ask it to convert into calories. And I do it all the time. I do it every day. So OpenAI, you can make an API call. You can get what you have eaten that triggered that glucose spike that you just went through. All right. And I think what I'm getting to is with Gen AI, I think we are at a cusp wherein we could get real-time actionable insight about our own body. Like you can literally act on it right now. It's not like oh, you know what? Today I took like 10,000 steps. No. It can literally alert you, like the app I'm working on, it can alert you, can you go for a walk now? Because your body needs it.
Interesting. It's almost like, when you sign up for, personal training, things like that, your personal trainer, the human being, right, is telling you what exercise to do within a 1 hour time frame, but you have to set that 1 hour, and then he or she will guide you to do exactly what you need to do to optimize for that workout. But what you're saying is through Gen AI, that coach, you have that constantly 24/7 based on
Correct. Yeah.
fed. It can tell you exactly what you need to do to optimize your own, healthcare lifestyle, so to speak. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I call this more like an ambient coach, like that's always there with me, right? And that can literally like guide me through in every single stage. Like let's say tomorrow morning I go to a farmer's market. I can literally take a picture of my refrigerator and I can ask like, what should I shop for? And guys, I'm not talking about this like in future. This I do now, today. You can do it with me.
It's really fascinating. Yeah. So we're about something around that? Yeah. Very interesting. Very interesting. Those are the main questions from my side. But yeah, like Karan, anything else on your end?
No, I think this is good. This is really interesting. Thank you so much, Kumar, for
Thank you.
taking us through the Amazon journey and the Halo journey. And there have been a lot of really interesting insights and good recommendations about OpenAI. I'm just gonna take some pictures from my refrigerator and see what OpenAI recommends. This is like old Samsung refrigerator idea that we used to get asked product sense questions. So I guess OpenAI has already democratized that solution. But no, this has been great. First pod. A lot of learnings, and thank you so much. Thanks for your time.
Likewise.
And looking forward to having you on the AI EMR side as well.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.